Hello, friends, and welcome to the Exploring Washington State podcast. My name is Scott Cowan, and I'm the host of the show. Each episode, I have a conversation with an interesting guest who is living in or from Washington State. These are casual conversations with real and interesting people. I think you're going to like the show. So let's jump right in with today's guest. All right, I'm sitting down today with Shannon Mayer. I don't know how to describe her. Coach, business owner, mom, photographer. Well, that's business owner. Shannon does nothing. I mean, if you go to her website and you look at her schedule, you'll see that it seems like every day she's got something going on. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is kind of this girls with grit. And I'm sure we're going to meander away from that. So Shannon, thanks for taking the time to sit down with me.
Thanks for having me.
I want to start off with a question. I have a question. I saw this reference twice now online, and I feel like it's going to play an important part of when we figure out your story. Okay.
Okay.
You got a bachelor's from Western Washington University.
Correct.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And a minor in Greek literature.
Yep.
How does that? I'm just kidding. So you went to Western.
Yep.
So you did you grow up in the Bellingham area or the west side of the state, or did you migrate here? What's the background to that? Let's go to that.
I grew up on Whidbey Island, so west side of the state. And then I chose to go to Western for undergrad, so just a few hours north of where my parents live.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. And then the other thing I saw when I was reading this is I was reading an article that you wrote about fly fishing, and the first time you were fly fishing, and it was Red's, I don't know, can't remember the exact name, but Red's out of Ellensburg. And you made a statement that, like, when you start anything new, you don't have aptitude for it. And I'm paraphrasing, but yet I see you highly prolific in coaching and training. And so I don't believe you. So I just don't. I mean, because you're coaching across a wide level of activities and at high levels. So what got you into coaching? Was it the Greek literature that got you into coaching?
Oh, for sure. So let's start with the Greek. So my dad is from Greece, actually. And so when I had the choice to choose a business degree, I chose international business, because with that degree, you have to choose a minor in a language. And at the time, they didn't have modern Greek, which is what I wanted to do. So I chose classical Greek. I ended up getting a minor in that, but my classical Greek professor actually created a modern Greek class for me for my last 2 years there. So technically, I have 2 years of both. So that's my Greek background. But so coaching, when I was in graduate school, I coached a girls' middle school soccer team. And I honestly did it just because I got a phone call and someone was like, "Hey, we need a coach. You're here this summer and you used to play at a high level. Like, do you want to coach?" And I was like, "I have time." So I just kind of was fully honest with these girls, like completely honest about the fact that I wasn't a partier and didn't follow the crowd in that way, and became a huge influence in their lives. And a few of them ended up putting themselves into rehab, which was crazy because they were young. They were like 6th, 7th grade. And so I just became a big influence in their life and didn't really realize that that was happening at the time. But afterwards, I really missed it. And so years later, I'd already started my photography business and writing and been doing that. And I missed coaching. I missed that feeling. And a few of the girls that I had coached when they were in middle school had contacted me and were like, "Hey, we're married and have kids. And hey, by the way, you literally changed our life however many years ago." And so that's when Girls with Grit, I was like, I really want to start coaching again. And my husband, I believe, was like, "Well, you have an opportunity to become a mountain bike coach," which was a sport that I was very into, and I still am very into. And so I took the opportunity to get my certifications, and that's how Girls with Grit was created.
That's awesome. That's a great story. Mountain biking. There's Angie.
Yes.
Up in Bellingham. Yep. Had her on before, and she's describing mountain biking to me, and Yeah, no, not for me. I'm an indoor guy. I mean, this is so funny. We're going to be talking all this outdoor activity stuff, and it's just not. That's just not. Yeah, no one wants to see me on a paddleboard. Anyway, but mountain biking, this is a sport that I remember many years ago. I was renting an apartment in Tacoma, and my son had just come to live with me. So this is probably 15 years ago. And the neighbor was out one day cleaning his bike.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking and looking at this bike, and it's got like suspension on the front and back. And, he's you can tell this guy just like loves this thing. And he casually mentioned, he goes, yeah, I got $8,000 into this. And I was just like, that's more than my car.
It's an expensive sport for sure.
And then a friend of mine went up to Whistler during the summer, and he and his kid were up mountain biking and, taking the ski lifts up there, which I think is a cool idea that you can repurpose these mountains during the summer. And they were saying bikes were for sale on the streets at Whistler, for $20,000. It's an expensive sport, and so is skiing. Yep. and all of that. But you don't have to buy a $20,000 bike, and you're teaching kids how to ride these things, and you're teaching them to be safe, right?
Correct. Yep.
We are teaching them to be safe. But I'm going to pinpoint you. What's the coolest thing about mountain biking for you?
Honestly, like it's kind of like skiing in the like summer to me, but they're both forward facing sports. Both of them, when you start to find a flow, whether you're on the trail, you're on the ski hill, you end up getting this freedom and this feel of almost flying, right? And the point where they become very fun, and the point that I like to help get people to, is where they have learned these skills, and they've learned them in a way where it's been baby steps, and they build their confidence while they're learning. And once they get to a level where they're comfortable, then they start to have fun, because they are not just winging it the whole time. They're not just chasing somebody down the hill and trying to go fast to keep up. Once you get to that point, or once you slow down enough to be at that point and then start enjoying it for yourself instead of for the people you're with, it becomes something that even when you're with a group of people, it's your time for yourself that we all need. And I find that even if I just get out for a 20-minute bike ride in the morning, or one run to myself at the ski area when I'm coaching that day, it's those few moments that you get to be by yourself to fill your cup. And so for me, that's kind of become something that's part of my life, but it's also something I've learned to like help others get for themselves.
So how do you help kids learn that? I mean, as an adult, that makes a lot of sense to me, right? But how do you impart that on a kid?
So I don't teach a ton of kids. I teach some kids mountain biking. Some older, like teenage level girls come to me for skiing, and most of the time they're at a higher level, so they're racing or they're trying to compete in big mountain or something. But with mountain biking, it's just, most of us learn how to ride a bike. That's different than mountain biking, right? It's the skills of like how to brake properly, how to use both brakes, instead of just your rear brake, how to shift properly to where the gears like are going to move how they're supposed to instead of clanking together, how to move with your bike and also move separate of your bike, right? To actually ride the trail and enjoy the flow of the trail. These are things that kids can learn at a young age. I just think a lot of people don't give kids enough credit that like they can learn these things, these skills, and that's the time they should learn it, because the earlier they learn it, the more likely they're gonna like be good at it, because their fear isn't there,
So you live in the Yakima area. Is there good mountain biking in that area?
There's a few really good trails that we are like currently trying to bring into, like, they were pirate trails, and we are working with Forest Service to bring them into a trail system. There are some good ones like that. There are otherwise, I wouldn't say we have like great mountain biking in this area, but we have some fun trails that we really enjoy, and some really good family trails. As far as mountain biking, like with kids and people that are beginners go, like this is a great area, because there are some really beautiful wide open trails where they're not that difficult. So you could take a beginner to intermediate rider or kids and they would feel comfortable. They wouldn't be intimidated.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And that's, yeah, I wouldn't, I mean, I'm thinking that area around you, and White Pass does White Pass do anything during the summer with mountain biking?
No.
Like Stevens does? Okay.
No. And Snoqualmie does, though.
Is Snoqualmie doing that now?
Yeah, they started 2 years ago.
Okay.
And so I'll be starting to teach women's mountain bike clinics there next summer.
Okay. So Stevens and Snoqualmie are doing it.
Correct.
Mission's not.
No.
White's not. Does anything happen up in Baker?
No, I think they have,
Okay.
I don't think they have permitting for summer activities.
Okay. All right. So that's kind of summer stuff. And then but you got into fly fishing, which is how we got introduced, was that I was told you were a fly fishing instructor and that I should have you on, which I thought, this is cool. I know nothing about fly fishing, so this will be fun. And then I found out you do all these other things that I know nothing about. So this will even better. And, you're by the Yakima River, which I've been told is a really great place for fly fishing. I've also found out that it is one of the best sites for bird watching in the United States, which I thought was really kind of funny, as I have driven through that canyon dozens and dozens of times. And I don't think I've ever seen a bird. That's kind of I kind of kid. I don't know why they say it's great for bird watching, but I've heard the fly fishing thing. So how'd you get started in that? And does that have overlap with like the stand-up paddleboarding or anything like that? Or
so that is how I ended up connecting with Red's Fly Shop. So my husband Andy and I teach intro to river paddleboarding on the Yakima River and on a private lake in the Yakima River Canyon. So that was something we started 6 years ago, I think. And one of the owners of Red's Fly Shop, he reached out to me. He was like, hey, I see that you're doing these really cool river clinics, like paddleboard clinics, and you guys come right by our place. You guys can stop here for free. You don't have to like pay us anything, and you can have lunch at our beach, use our bathrooms, kind of thing. So like, a few years go by, we have this relationship. We become really good friends. And I don't know, it was right before COVID, I feel, because it was I was pregnant with my second kiddo, who's now 3.5. And Joe, who's one of the owners, was like, you should teach my women's fly. We really want to start a women's program. You should teach the women's fly fishing. I go, Joe, I have never fly fished. I know nothing about fly fishing. Like, I grew up salmon fishing, and he was like, but that doesn't matter. You're a good coach. I can teach you. You can't teach people to be a good coach, but you can teach someone, the skills they need to basically teach what they teach for fly fishing. And I kind of laughed at him because I was really busy and I was pregnant, and I was like, okay, so then years go by, and a few years ago, I think it was 1.5 years, 2 years ago now, he brought it up again. And I was like, Joe, I really want to try it out. Can I try it? Can I see if I like it? Because if I like it, like, me, I will jump in with both feet and all my animals and kids and family. Like, we're jumping in together. And he basically was like, invite as many women as you want, and we'll do a clinic, like an intro clinic, and we'll take you guys fishing. And if you hate it by the end of the day, I will never ask you again. But if you love it, we can talk about moving forward. And I fell in love with it like right away. I was like, this is like nothing that I do. I love fly fishing. And so that began my journey into learning, and I still am learning. I have some amazing mentors. Joe is my number one mentor. Jason over at Reds is the leader, like the head of their education programs and university. He is also a mentor for me. And I started teaching their women's programs this last year. And starting in 2024 in the spring, I will be still doing the women's programs, but also they're going to have me teaching private guiding on the Natchez and Tieton rivers, which are tributaries of Yakima River. So the Yakima would be considered, like, as a ski run, it would be like a double black diamond. It's a blue ribbon trout like section of the Yakima. So it's those fish have been caught so many times that they are not dumb, right? But the Natchez and Tieton are really good beginner rivers because they're wading, you can wade in, and they're more like a green-blue river. Both of them are when they're running properly. So I will be teaching, women's and couples women's clinics, private and couples on those rivers starting in the spring as well.
That's very cool. So I got to ask you, you said something, you said it's unlike anything you do. What is it about fly fishing that hooked you? No, sorry, I wasn't trying to be, that was unintentional, but we'll run with it. But what was it about fly fishing that got to you so quickly?
So for me, like you said in the beginning, like I teach a lot of different sports, and
yeah,
I love to learn. I don't have a fear of looking stupid or falling or being a beginner. And I feel like sometimes that is the reason people don't try things, is because it's hard to put yourself out there. And a lot of times be like, as a woman, most time I'm the only one there, and I don't care because I just think of myself as a person. But like, or just like, I don't know, for me, it's like, it's all the learning, but it's when you're out there and you're constantly moving, it's a physical and mental sport. And I think until you get into it, maybe you think, a lot of fishing is just, you're throwing it out there and you're hoping to catch something, right? You have to have skill, you have to have knowledge, you have to work with the river, you have to work with the water levels, you have to work with the water temperature, you have to work with the weather outside, with what bugs are out, what fish you're trying to catch. Your casting is, you could always improve your cast. There's all these different types of casts. It's just this constant, like, you're moving, but it's not like I'm running up a mountain. You know what I mean? It's almost like yoga, but on the river. It's a mental, physical, like, reprieve from life, to where when you're doing it, it is very hard to be doing anything but it. And for me, I feel like that is why I like it, is because it makes me have a timeout from everything else. You know what I mean? And it rejuvenates me. And man, when you get a bite, you are like, or if you catch one, you are completely like hooked. Like, you are like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get another one. You know what I mean? Because there's just something about it. And everything around here is all catch and release. So it was funny when I first heard that. I was like, what do you mean? I eat my fish that I catch, right? Because I grew up on the west side.
Attitude too.
But
yeah,
man, there's something really special about catching a fish. And like, we use barbless, so it's easy to get the hooks out. And like holding them in the water while they're alive, and then like letting them go. Like, I never knew I like thought I'd be that type of person, but holy cow, there's something very special about it, that it makes you feel very connected to like nature and the world around you. So that was a long answer.
No, it's a great answer. Thank you. No, see, that's the one thing I like. One of the great benefits about me doing this is I get to learn about stuff that I have no problem saying I don't know, because there's so much I don't know. And so, like, I've never been fly fishing. I think my grandfather took me fishing in a private lake once when I was like 6, 8 years old. And that's it. That's the only time I've been. To me, I perceive fishing as boring. One of my good friends is huge into fly fishing, and he would argue that I'm completely wrong. And I probably am. You just described it in a way, though, that actually made me go, that'd be cool. Where my friend, no offense to him, he's described it, and I'm like, you just made me go, ooh, that sounds cool. That's like, it's the whole bundle of activity there. It's really, really cool. And I think, I went to college at Central. I never thought of the Yakima River as being anything special back a long, long time ago. I had no idea that it was such a well-regarded river for fly fishing.
Oh yeah. I mean, Reds is world renowned. I mean, they get people from all over the world coming to stay there at Canyon River Ranch, the lodge, and eat. Have you eaten at that grill, by the way? At Canyon River Grill?
Oh, man, I might have had a lunch there one time.
Oh man.
But I'm not sure, because you're far more enthusiastic about it than my memory might be. So I don't know that I had the same experience. So I don't think I ate there. I think I've been in there and had coffee.
Yep.
I've gone in and wandered around, used the bathroom as I'm driving around. That whole little areas. I got to ask you this, because it has nothing to do with you. What's going on with the observatory? that's being built there. Do you know anything about that?
I do. So those are all private cabins.
Oh, you do?
Well, they're all private, cabins, private houses that people own, like second, third homes, I think. And I think the owner of that has 2 houses in there, and that is just something he's interested in, and who he's putting an observatory in.
So as you're driving, you're driving through the canyon, and first off, all these houses pop up, right? And then they started building this thing, and I'm like, well, and then they put like an observatory dome on it. I'm like, what on earth is going on there? So that's kind of.
But no, okay. So Chef Kevin is the chef at the grill there, and he before COVID, he had like 3 or 4 restaurants in Seattle. Like, he is amazing. So he closed down his restaurants during COVID and moved over and is the head chef at the grill. And I kid you not, their food is the best food in Yakima and Ellensburg. I think, hands down. Like, it's amazing. So, I mean, yeah. Anyways, if you haven't, you need to go eat there, because it's like so good.
All right. One of the questions I always ask guests towards the end, I'm just going to hit you with it now, because you kind of already gave me the answer, but I'm showing up to the Yakima area. I'm making area for lunch. Where's a great place to grab lunch? Are you telling me I need to go to Red's?
I go to Red's. I would go to Red's, and I get their burger with oh my God, their burger with the thickest slices of bacon. It's a Wagyu. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's that fancy beef.
Okay.
Burger, fries, and then like thick slices of bacon. It's amazing. And then I always get their hop water. I can't drink and do anything because I'm lightweight. So I always get their hop water. And then sometimes instead of fries, they have a Doc medley salad, which is like a Greek salad. It's amazing. I'll get the salad instead of the fries. And it's like, I every time I coach or like teach anything there, I always get that every time, because it's my favorite.
I will check that out, and I will report back to you, because that's not. I think all I had was coffee there. I think that's got to be, because I would. The way you the coffee is good. The way you're describing the burger would not have been like, yeah, I ate there. I would be like, oh yeah, that's right. So I got to go check that out. All right, burger. You think it's Wagyu?
That's exactly what it. Yes, it's Wagyu. Yes, I just don't know how to pronounce it, but yes, that's it. It's on there. And I know there's like other fancy, there's other really cool fancy. He's really great. I'm just like, I like meat. I'm a meat girl. So
there's nothing wrong with that.
Burger.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. Okay. All right. Wow. Okay. So sorry. I just realized I'm hungry. We're bouncing around a lot. We're bouncing around a lot, but I really want you to, let's talk about Girls with Grit.
Okay.
Tell me more.
So I started out mountain bike coaching 10 years ago now, and ever since I've added in all the sports that I do, or that I'm sponsored in as an athlete, or like fly fishing, like that's something now that is something I'm very passionate about myself. So river paddleboarding and lake paddleboarding, we mostly do river. If people ask me for a lake paddleboard clinic, I'll do it for them, but we mostly do river on the Yakima River. We do river paddleboard expeditions in Montana and Utah every year, which are, 5 to 6 day trips where we have expedition company come and they make all the food, and we camp along the river every night, and it's insane. It's awesome. And those are co-ed. Andy, my husband, does them with me. All the paddleboard stuff is co-ed. And then mountain biking is still a thing. Beginner through expert level women's clinics and camps. And then during that season is also, like you said, fly fishing. So that's kind of spring through fall for me. My little tributaries out here, the Natchez and Tieton, are just Memorial Day through October, end of October every year. And then I'll kind of hop over to the Yakima for the walk and wade season, because when the water goes down, it ends up becoming a really good, more beginner river. So I'll be kind of doing that till it gets really cold and people kind of begin to move away from fly fishing, at least my clientele. Okay. And then I also, in the spring and summer and fall, I host a cowgirl camp out at Red Mountain Trails in Benton City, which is, so I grew up with horses and I have 2. horses have like, I mean, I don't know. For me, it's been like forever. I mean, I remember being 4 and scooping horse poop, and it was always like the work before the fun, and it taught me that that's life, right? You have to work hard to like get what you want. You can't just sit there and be like, oh, I'm just gonna like have fun for my whole life and not work. I mean, work can be fun, but it's also work, right? Um, so I
Right.
connected with Teresa, who owns Red Mountain Trails, and we do just a day camp where we do a trail ride on our horses through the vineyards out there. And then we do hat burning. So we all have Western hats and we, hat burn cool designs on the Western hats. And then we do tea making class. And then we have an empower hour at the end where we all share some cool inspirational moments and have some cider and wine and snacks and all that fun stuff. So that's like the warm months where there's not snow on the ground. And then my busiest season is actually ski season. That's I coach January through April all over the Northwest. I teach at Alpental, at Summit Snoqualmie every week. Usually I teach a women's clinic there almost every Tuesday. And then I do ski camps there. And then White Pass, which is like 40 minutes from my house, I'm there 4 clinics a year, but then I also offer a few days a month where I teach private clinics that people can pay for. And then I teach a women's camp at Schweitzer every year, a ski camp in March. And then my husband and I teach a co-ed cat ski trip in Canada every year. So I'm all over, but ski coaching is like the only sport I coach that's just intermediate through expert, because we basically offer what the ski areas don't offer. So we work in coordination with them to help their clients get beyond skiing on just a groomer, like getting them comfortable skiing off piste, skiing in powder, skiing in moguls, hitting little drops, kind of stuff like that. So that's Girls with Grit. Oh, and then I forgot about that. I also do Girls.
But wait,
there's more. Girls with Grit collective events, which I try to do once a season. There are more community events. So we start with yoga, we do a hike, and then we usually have an empower hour and a women's market. And they are very low cost, no cost days where we're just trying to get women together to meet each other, to create relationships and get outside and have fun.
Okay. Did you ski as a kid?
I did. My mom was a mogul skier at Alpental, and she had me on skis before I could walk. So yes, I've been skiing my whole life.
And don't normally ask relationship questions, but where did you meet your husband?
I met Andy at a ski event, like a ski movie event. Do you want the whole story? Because it's kind of funny.
If you want to share it, because I'm kind of going in a direction here.
Yeah. So at the time I was living in Glacier by Mount Baker, and I had my media business. So I was writing and shooting photos and for outdoors companies and stuff like that. And my friend, one of my really good friends who I've known forever since high school, she was like, hey, I need help with the raffles at the ski movie premiere this weekend in Seattle. And I was like, I don't want to go, because I'd gone the year before and I'd kind of been tortured by some of the pros. Like they were like flinging rubber bands at us and just acting immature. And I was like, that's not my scene. Like, I don't want to hang out with people, like a bunch of party people and everything. And I was like, and I'm driving to Whistler tomorrow morning, the following morning, to go mountain bike for the day, like as you talked about. And she was like, please, I really need your help. I'm pregnant. I'm like 7 months pregnant. I was like, oh, you're using the pregnant card. So I drove all the way down from Baker to go help her. I know, which is like, I'm glad she did, because man, she still takes credit for us. She is the reason we're together. So thank you, Allison, if you're listening to this. So I drove all the way down to Seattle for this world premiere of the ski movie that I had heard nothing about, didn't know anybody that was in it. And have you been to a ski film premiere, like a world premiere?
No.
They're insane. Like, people buy the raffle items that they give away are like skis and so people are buying hundreds of tickets at a time, right? So you're having to pull them all apart, whatever. It's a whole deal. So I think there was 3 of us like doing the raffles, and we still couldn't keep up. And this guy, like, that's standing next to us, like, starts helping me with the raffles, and he's wearing like wholly dirty Carhartts and like an old sweatshirt and a wholly dirty hat. And I was like, oh, he must like volunteer. He must be a volunteer, you know, like me, right? And so he helps me out. And then after the raffles are done, they were like, here, you can have a drink voucher. Go have a drink in the bar before you go. And I was like, okay. So I go up there, and at the time I was skiing for Solomon Skis, which is a ski brand. And so I went up there to try and find my manager, and I couldn't see him because the bar, of course, was packed, because that's like the place to be. But the only person I did know was the guy that had helped me with the raffle tickets. And so we started talking and talked about, you know, our families and growing up in Washington and skiing and mountain biking and dirt biking and all this stuff, and totally hit it off. And then became friends on Facebook because, like, you know, that was the thing you did. And so I didn't know anything about him beyond the fact that on Facebook it said he was like a ski bum, but he had a picture of him, like his profile picture was like construction worker. And I was like, oh, he must do construction. That's cool. My dad owns a construction company, and I worked with him for years. And so I was like, cool, we're up, you know, Sea Malley. So we totally fell in love. And then he tells me that he was in the ski movie that we met at because he's a professional skier. And I was like, I'm really glad you didn't start with that. He goes, no, I got that right away, that you would have been like, bye, see you later. So I think I liked him because I liked him, and he liked me because I didn't know who he was. And he says because I was a mountain biker and he loved mountain biking. So yeah, so it was totally fate, and that's how we met, and here we are.
Here you are
with 2 kids.
Yeah, with 2 kids. So the reason, and thank you, that's a great story. The last name is fairly well known in Washington State because there was these 2 guys, and they were in the Olympics, and they were really good. And you have the same last name.
Yes. Yeah. So that's funny. That's even more funny because when I was coming over here for the first time, Andy hadn't told me he was a pro skier yet. And my mom was like, what's his last name? Because you're driving all the way over to Yakima. This is kind of creepy, right? And I was like, I don't know. It's like Mar or something. And she was like, is it Mare? I was like, I don't know. Why does that matter? Right? Like, she was like, well, there were these 2 twins that like won silver and gold in the Olympics. I was like, well, I wasn't born yet, so I don't care. I mean, cool, but you know, whatever. Like, so I get here, and that's when he told me that he was in the movie and that his dad is Steve Mayer, who got the silver. And I was like, oh, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
So yes, Andy is the son of Steve, who got silver. It's
just okay. So your father-in-law's fame happened before you were born.
Yeah.
Okay. But I want to share this with you, and you probably heard other people say this, but I was a teenager. It was a big deal.
That's what my mom said.
It was a really big deal that these 2 brothers from Yakima, White Pass, went to the Olympics and came home with silver and gold. The pride of our region was weird. It was really weird because I don't know enough about White Pass. I've never skied there. I've skied Snoqualmie once. I've skied Crystal once, and never will do it again. It really sucks when you go up on a chairlift for the very first time and you lose a ski.
Yeah.
And you don't know what you're doing. It just didn't set me up for success. And you said earlier in the you know that you don't mind looking stupid. I'm terrified of looking stupid. So that was just we're polar opposites. But the region, like, you don't think of White Pass as being a place where world-class skiers would come from.
Yeah.
Whether that's fair or not, that's what was kind of in 1980. That was the perception. So what was that? So you had you like, okay, cool, whatever. But I got to ask you a question. Was your husband put on skis at birth, or did dad introduce him to skiing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Andy's dad was like, he said that, you know, winters he wasn't around a ton because he obviously worked, that was his job, right? But yeah, he got Andy and his sister Ginger on skis at a young age. And Andy, you know, he's always loved it. He tried ski racing. It wasn't his thing. So he kind of went more backcountry, big mountain type of stuff. But yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, Steve and his wife
Okay.
Dina still ski, and yeah, it's a ski family for sure.
Oh, yeah. No, it's just okay. That's very cool. So one of the things you haven't talked on is running. You seem to do endurance running, or have you come to your senses and stopped that?
No, I am I don't know if I ever, I mean, maybe someday I will stop, but I love ultra trail running. It's a big uh I just love it. I didn't get into it until after I had my first kid. Um but man, it's
Okay.
pretty crazy how far you can get in a day. I mean, I I do teach endurance coaching. I help women get into trail running, get into um, those more endurance based events if they want to. But yeah, I love
Okay.
doing 50 to 70-mile runs up mountains and around mountains, and man, it's pretty fun.
Okay. I my body just starts to hurt just listening to you. I'm just like, oh my gosh. So what got you started? I mean, you said, so what
Well, so
you just didn't wake up one day and say, I'm going to run for 30 miles today or
well,
whatever, what was,
I always ran. I was always a runner. When
okay.
I was in middle school, so I was really, like I said, I was very into soccer. Soccer was like my big thing. I have an older brother who's 2 years older than me who played soccer, and so of course I wanted to be better than him. I wanted to keep up, and so from a very young age, like soccer, soccer was my life. I remember even being in like fifth grade, and everyone else is at recess, like playing on toys, and I'm like running laps like by myself around the field because to me, I I had these dreams of like being Mia Hamm, right? Like that was my
Okay.
era, was Mia. She was like my idol, and so middle school came and I was like, oh, well, I don't really need to be a track star or cross country star, but if I do it, I will become probably better at soccer. And that was like my stage where I was like kind of a bigger, like short, but like I definitely like had baby weight on me. And so I was like, maybe it'll help me become faster for soccer. And so my first year of cross country, which was in seventh grade, my I do everything, go to finals and all that, and like everyone does, and I came in third to last out of like almost 400 girls. Okay, and
Okay.
I was happy with it, but also like, I mean, I got laughed at, because out of my whole team, like I was by far the slowest. But seventh grade, you're like, you have to be tough skinned because middle school sucks for like everybody, right? Um, and then eighth grade, so after that, I was like, I want to do better next year, and I started running all the time on the trails by my house. I grew up surrounded by trails, and the next season came, and I went to finals, and I got third out of
Wow.
almost
That's a
almost
huge,
400
that's a
girls. Yeah,
huge,
so
that's a huge switch.
for me, like running, that really became like I created this love for running, and it wasn't like long distance at that point, like long distance for like that age, but I always ran even, through my 20s. And then when I was pregnant with Ryder, I was like, my oldest, I was like, I want to have a goal so that like a few months after I have him, I want to try and like do a marathon. I've never done a marathon before, but I want to train throughout my pregnancy. I'd done all this research. I was like, you're allowed to do whatever you're already doing. You're allowed to continue doing that like through your pregnancy.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
before I got pregnant, I was training pretty heavily. So I continued that through my pregnancy, had Ryder, and then I had him in end of June. And in November, I did my first marathon, and it was a mountain marathon. So it was like 9,000 feet of vert, which was crazy. Um, and, but also very, I mean, the views you can get doing those types of marathons, it's people are always like, oh, you do marathons. It's like, yeah, but I don't. Like, I don't have a time. It's not time. To me, I'm not competing against anyone but myself. I am looking at the views. I'm in nature. I'm, you know, suffering through the sufferfest of the sufferfest portions, right? Which build your strength physically and mentally more than anything else. Like mentally, you can, like, physically you can do these things. Mentally, it's the mental part that usually we quit because our mind has to give up, right? So I did that
Right.
marathon and I was like, if I can do that, I can do longer. And well, I don't need to do a race. I can just go do this with my friends. Like, we can bring out, all of our own gear. And so ever since then, and so that my oldest is now 7.5. So now I've done 50
Okay.
milers. I did the Wonderland Trail in 3 days. Like, which is 90 miles. So
Yeah.
like, but it's created not only these experiences for me personally, but I've created this group of women that I do them with, who are moms, who we take a day out of our lives of like taking care of everyone else, and we get to go out and experience nature in the most pure way. And we get to push ourselves and we get to push each other and we get to laugh and we get to cry and we get to, it's these, and then we come back and we're better moms and we're better wives because of it. You know what I mean? And for me, it's like, if I get up at 4:30 in the morning and I get to the trail by 5 and I get an hour run in with my dog, like I said earlier, that starts my day. That is the time I get for myself. And the rest of the day is not for me. I have a 3-year-old who's with me all the time, or I'm coaching, or I'm prepping dinner, or I'm cleaning, or I'm taking care of the dogs or the horses, or I'm getting groceries, or I'm running the business. Like, that's the only time that I have. If I make it, that is the time I get for
Mhm.
me. And running, like, even if it's one of those days like today where I woke up and it's raining and I get out there and I get on the trail and I get it done and I enjoy being out there, even if it's wet or cold, and I get back to the car, and I feel so much better when I'm done because I did it.
Mhm.
And it's one more time, even if it's like a 2-mile run. I did something hard. I did something that was mentally hard because, right? Because I pushed past, maybe I don't want to go today. Maybe I just want to sleep in because it's wet out, but I did it. So it's me constantly showing myself I can do things that are hard. I can do things that I might not want to do, but if I do them, I know I'm going to be stronger and I'm going to feel better because of it. So, and I try to teach our boys those same things in their life as well.
I'm going to come back to your kids if that's
Do
okay.
it.
I do want to ask you about your kids, but I got to ask you, you, through that whole explanation, you said a couple things that I want to explore. Number one, you finished 397th out of 400 ish in your 7th grade year.
Yep.
Okay. Most kids that I grew up with, if they would have had that result, would have quit. The vast majority of them would have said, I'm done. I'm not going to do this again. You turned it around the next year and you finished 3rd out of basically 400, I'm assuming, participants. Now you're also talking about the mindset. You like to do hard things. You're running. You do these ultra trail runs and all of this stuff. You talk about going out instead of sleeping in today because it was raining. You went out and maybe you only put 2 miles in, but you did something hard. Where do you think you started to get this mindset? Because it's different than what a lot of people have these days. A lot of people, if it gets hard, we just give up. We don't push through. Okay, we make an excuse and we convince ourselves that, oh, it's raining, I can't go outside, or oh, my shin hurts, I can't do this, or whatever it is. Was it your parents? Where did you get this mindset from?
It's funny, like I can't really pinpoint an exact thing or person that it came from, but I do know that my dad has been a huge influence on my life, and he is from Grace. He immigrated over here and he came from nothing. He didn't go to college, he had no money. Um, and he ended up starting 2 successful businesses, like putting himself through schooling for one, and the other one, he literally taught himself how to build houses. He taught himself everything, books, and
Okay.
because online you didn't go to school for that back then, right? Like, my dad's in his 60s,
Right,
like,
right.
and his work ethic and how he never gave up, and he worked 2 jobs like my whole life until he retired like a year and a half ago. And you know he doesn't, like, growing up, he wasn't around a whole lot because he worked so much, but when he did speak, like, you listened. And working with him, when I worked with him when I was getting I basically quit my like real job to work alongside him to start my media business. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, like, it's some of the happiest years of my life because I got to be work with my dad. And um I miss it still, but I'm very grateful for that time I had with him. But he's a huge influence on my life. And um because I think a lot of people, say, oh, well, you know, it's like where you came from, like, makes a difference, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, it does if you take advantage of it. But if you don't come from that and you do succeed, how much more inspirational is that? Right? Like, to me,
Mm-hmm.
he's the epitome of inspiration because he literally could have blamed his whole circumstances on his dad, who was not a great man and learning nothing and
Okay.
coming from nothing, but he didn't. So for me, that his hard work ethic, and my mom, who, you know, she worked, but she also, like, if we did well in school, she took us skiing on powder days. She took me horseback. I still remember being 5 years old, and she would take me out horseback riding, and I'd be on the back of the horse and we'd be galloping down the trail. I mean, like, things like this where, my parents, I'm very grateful I had such amazing, like, parents that made a huge positive impact on my life. But they also were from the very beginning, were like, your life is your own. If you mess up, it's on you. We taught you the right way. We taught you, you know, the good decisions versus maybe not the great decisions. Like, if you get arrested, if you go party, if you become an alcoholic, that's on you. And we will be here for you, and we love you. We will always love you. But, like, at the end of the day, your choices are your own. And putting that responsibility on me from a young age, it changed my life for the better, because I never blamed anyone else for my decisions, because they were the
Mm.
consequences of my actions were my consequences because I made the decision to make them. So, yeah, I don't know. Um, I've just thrived on just being driven towards a goal. And
Okay.
I love making goals and then just doing my best to accomplish them.
All right. Like to ask you about your kids. Not great detail about your kids, but what do your kids like to do? What do you have the kids out doing? What's fun for them?
Oh man, they love dirt biking. They love mountain biking. They love skiing. They love paddleboarding on the river. Getting
Okay.
Ryder, my oldest, into fly fishing. He likes that. They like riding the horses. They like playing in the dirt. Lots of dirt.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Lots of dirt.
oh man, yeah, pretty much
Okay.
if it's an outside activity, they are on board, no matter if it's pouring rain or snow or sunshine. Yeah.
Really? Okay. So that's that's refreshing, because that's not what you normally hear about kids these days. Normally it's like, well, they like their Nintendo Switch or their Xbox or their PS5, or or this or that. That's, I'm sure they enjoy those things too, but the fact that they're, and maybe they don't, but the fact that they're outdoors and focused on that's very cool. Very cool. As we wind this down, because we could go on, and we're gonna, I'm gonna encourage people to go check your website out, and you can find out a lot. You got a lot of content there. What we haven't talked about is you write an article for the Yakima Herald. You're doing other stuff. You're a photographer. You've got all this other stuff going on. But I got some questions about when you're not doing all. Actually, I have one other question. You said you like to set goals. 2 questions. What's the farthest you've run in a day?
Gosh. Well, I did a 50 miler a few years ago, and then the rim to rim to rim could be considered maybe the furthest, just because the elevation. So that's like the Grand Canyon from one rim to the other and then back again in a day.
Whoa,
So I think
you did
that's,
that.
yeah, I think that's in the 40s, but the elevation is really, really high. So 50-ish
Okay.
miles, I would say, probably in a day.
50ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did
So what?
100K last year, but that was biking and running. And that was I do a fundraiser every year to try and raise money for Children's Miracle Network here in
Okay.
Yakima. Because Ryder, our oldest, was a NICU baby. So um,
Okay.
the children's, like, programs are here are very important to me and Andy and our family. So yeah, I did 100K last year, but that was like biking and running. So I don't think that counts.
Have you ever tried a triathlon?
No, I'm not like, I'd have to really work on my swimming. I'm a good swimmer, but like swimming with like all those people around me has never been like a big, like, oh, that looks so fun. It's more like,
Yeah, I could see that.
yeah.
I could. Okay. So if I put you on the spot and said, what's your big goal that you're working on for personal performance? Let's put it that way. Is there something out there that's like I'll call it the holy grail that you want to say, I want to accomplish, I'm joking. I want to run up Mount Everest, or, not that you can run up Mount Everest just because there's so many people on it these days, but, yeah. Do you have any big hairy goals, a dash, that you want to put out there?
Honestly, like I more like do it a year in advance. Like I don't have anything
Okay.
like where I have to travel a long distance. Like I'd love at some point to go do some like really big hut to hut alpine trail runs over in Europe at some point, because there's some beautiful routes
Okay.
out there. But that would be like when the kids are in college or moved out kind of thing. I'm very happy in the
Right.
season I'm in being mom. But for like the next year, I plan to do a 50 miler in April and run around Mount Hood next summer with some friends.
Okay.
And then, yeah, just do another big fundraiser this next year. Those are kind of like
Okay.
my personal goals. I'm also, a big one for me that's going to be a lot of work is I dirt bike as well. I don't coach it. I probably will start teaching women's dirt biking beginner this next year, but there's a big old dirt bike race off Rimrock Lake up White Pass called the Rimrock Grand Prix. And if I could get good enough to be in like, to do like the base category for that this next year, I would be super stoked. And I think for that is like the biggest thing is just staying healthy, because dirt bikes, like when you crash dirt biking, like you usually aren't very okay. So, that's like hopefully in the next year or two, I'd love to do that race.
All right. That's awesome. All right. Earlier on, I asked you, typically what I ask people is like, I'm coming to Yakima. Where's a great place for lunch? You've already given me that. But more importantly for me is coffee. I don't function without it.
Neither do I.
You got to tell me, okay. And that's why we get along. So where's a great place for coffee in the Yakima, Natchez, Sela, Tieton, Cowiche area?
So in Natchez, I have two spots actually. So if you're like if you're like rolling through and you can't stop, really, Highway Espresso. It's a little coffee stand right before the light in Natchez when you're leaving town. It's on your left.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. Tori Didi owns it, and awesome coffee. Just the gals that work there are hilarious and amazing, and you will talk to them and be best friends with them in like 5 minutes because they're so great. If you have time to stop and eat and also get coffee, Cott's Peak is a bagel shop and coffee shop in Natchez. It's new in the last few months. They have amazing coffee, but they also have really good bagel sandwiches and donuts, and it's just a really cool spot to go. So those are my two favorite spots here, just a few minutes away from our house.
Where's that at?
So if you're coming from Yakima and you turn right at the light, it's literally on your first corner, just past the church. It used to be the old bank. It used to be Banner Bank. And there's a beautiful mural on the side that says Cott's Peak Bagelry. You can't miss it.
All right. That's okay. Do you go to Yakima much? Do you get into Yakima?
I do, like once a week. I usually go the other way to the mountains,
Yeah, okay.
But yes.
So we're recording this on a Wednesday.
Okay.
And today, the episode, I sat down with Joey Lawrence.
Yep.
And so that episode just went live today.
Sweet.
And Joey's trying to do something that's on the surface sounds crazy, but when you hear him talk about it, you you can just tell that he's like fully committed or needs to be committed. No, I kid, but fully committed to bringing a surf park to Yakima.
Yeah.
Or to the Yakima area. And I think that's pretty cool. But we were talking about, and Yakima's okay. So when I went to college in Ellensburg, Yakima, it's just kind of like I grew up in Tacoma, so I can say these things because I grew up.
Yeah, because Tacoma has an aroma.
Well, not anymore. We're very sensitive to that. But yes. Anyway, but Yakima is always kind of like. But I found some really cool things in Yakima. Yeah. There's really cool stuff going on there, and and if he's successful, there might be a 5.5 acre surf park.
Yeah.
In the hills. I mean, that's interesting to me. Would you try surfing? Would that be something like if this opens up? Would you go out there and check it out?
So my husband and I usually surf whenever we get to Hawaii. Like neither of us are good by any means, but like we've talked to Joey. We've been talking to him since this idea literally like came to be, and we'd probably teach some some paddleboarding, like flat water stuff there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's an intriguing idea.
Man,
it's intriguing.
If it flies, I think it would be amazing for the area. So
yeah, I think it would be a nice counterbalance to the winter sports.
Agreed. Yep.
Yeah, that's a cool thing. So I'm going to put you on the spot about Yakima. Tell us I'll call it a secret, but like what's cool in Yakima to you? What's something that not everybody knows, but you're like, Yakima's got this going on for it?
I think the biggest thing that Yakima has that, I mean, anybody that, the only time my grandpa is from here, which is crazy because my great grandpa was a very prolific architect. He did like the Larson building and a bunch of buildings at Seattle U. And so he's from here. So he's in heaven right now, like so happy that I'm here. But so my family's from here. So growing up, I only came here for soccer tournaments. And so he was always like, you got to go to Miner Burger because they have the best burgers. And I grew up eating them, so you have to go. So that's literally all I knew was Miner Burger, which, by the way, amazing burgers. They're like as big as your face. Or like soccer. And, and it was hot. It was always hot. And I'm from the West Side. I like not hot. So, but living here, I think the coolest part is that no matter the season, you literally can go do a rad activity outside and have a freaking blast. If it's really hot, you go to the river, you fly fish, you paddleboard, you go to the lake, you paddleboard, you swim. If it's cold out and it's sunny, you can go for a hike, you can go for a snowshoe, you can go for a mountain bike ride. You can literally it's so sunny here so much. And there's so many cool things to do, so many beautiful trails where you can get on top of mountains and there's nobody there. Like, on the West Side's great. But you go to a trailhead at 6 a.m. on a weekday sometimes, and you're going to be there with 40 other people. You're going to go here at 9 o'clock in the morning on a weekend, and you might see 2 people. You know what I mean? So the amount of access we have over here to activities, and then after that, you can go to one of the best breweries in Washington State or the best wineries in Washington State. And you can go to Crafted for lunch or dinner, which they have amazing food as well. Or we have all these amazing people that have started these restaurants and stores and coffee shops. And, they're trying to make the community more of a community. And they're tying it all together. And every single year, somebody opens something else up. Tieton right above Natchez, they're trying to start really cool outdoors programs up there that we're going to be a part of. I mean, it's cool because people keep moving over here that we work together. There's this mentality over here within the community where it's not this we're competing against each other. It's like, we are working together and we are going to make this community better. I don't know. I think there's something very special about Yakima that I never felt anywhere else I've lived. So.
Tieton.
Yeah.
I've sat down with a couple of people from Tieton and interviewed them. Tieton Cider.
Yeah.
The owners. So they had me over to their house up there. I'd never been up there before. And their home is it's a very small home, but it's ultra modern. It's very cool. It's like a very, very cool house. And I'm sitting there and, they're out in the middle of their orchards, basically interviewing them. And when we get done, they go, "You've got to go into Tieton with us." And I felt like I was being kidnapped. I felt like they were throwing me in the trunk of the car and bringing me to Tieton. And they dropped me off with this guy. And the next thing I know, I'm walking around Tieton and I'm getting this story of downtown Tieton. And it was fascinating to me. What I love about Tieton is that it's the people that are buying there are trying really hard to keep the people that live there able to live there, that they're working hard to find employment opportunities. They're not trying to run. I don't want to say anybody's trying to run people out in communities, but let's say Bend, Oregon, for example, cost of living in Bend is so high.
Yeah. You can't live there anymore. Yeah.
Right. And Tieton is trying, I feel like Tieton is trying really hard to not make that happen. They're offering coding camps so that kids can get jobs as coders, and they can make enough money to live there and work and they're trying to make coding jobs for agricultural businesses. I just like the intention around the community. But the thing I think is the coolest thing about Tieton, and they didn't do it this year, and I hope that they're going to bring it back. I want to check out the Tieton Grand Prix.
Oh yeah.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it looks like a blast.
It looks like a blast. And then the next day they let them race through the orchards.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I want to go see
for
this.
Sure.
So that's I really like that area up there. And Natchez is, there's some cool stuff in Natchez. Yakima, I don't want to say it's improving. That sounds like it sounds almost, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Like you said, there's something to do outdoors in the greater Yakima area all year round. And there's a lot of other cool things happening there. So we're going to close. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find out more about you and your coaching and all those things that you're doing? Because I was jokingly going to bring up your schedule, and I think, do you get like a day off next year? Is there one day you don't have something booked on your calendar? 1 or 2,
yeah.
It's pretty crazy, but where can people find you?
Online at girlswithgrit.fit is the website for all the sports and all that. And then girlswithgritstore.com is going to be I have a clothing line that kind of goes with the brand. And then on Instagram, it's Girls with Grit NW, and same on Facebook, Girls with Grit. And then my personal Instagram and Facebook is really a business. So Shannon Mayer Skuris as well. So I kind of, and then Mayer Media is my media company. So,
So we didn't even talk about any of that.
Well,
so people are going to have to go look that up. They're just going to have to go, or I'll have you back on and we'll talk some more.
Perfect.
But, I thank you for taking the time today. This is, well, my body hurts from listening to all the activities. Just from listening, I'm worn out and sore. But I think what I'm really, really super impressed with is I really like the mindset that you demonstrate.
Thank you.
That doing hard things, doing them, and not being afraid. I'm just the opposite. Like I said earlier, I hate looking like I don't know what I'm doing, which is most of the time. But like skiing, I was so uncomfortable when I tried to ski in my late teens. Because my friends were all good skiers. I hadn't been up there, and I was just like embarrassed. And then, like I said, lose a ski. But I love the fact that you don't let things, it just doesn't seem like you let things like that get in the way, which is something I think we could all learn more from.
Well, I will leave you with this. The more times you put yourself in situations where you're uncomfortable, the more comfortable you will be being uncomfortable. So.
It's very true, or at least that's what I've been told lots of times. No, but I do. It is.
You got to come fishing with me. How about that? Baby steps.
I'll do that. I would actually. I will take you up.
Fly fishing and lunch at Red's.
You had me at lunch. We're in.
Perfect.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thanks, Scott.
Hope you enjoyed the show. You can reach me on Twitter at ExploreWaState. I'd love to hear your comments. You can also visit our website at explorewashingtonstate.com. If you know anyone who would like the show, it'd be amazing if you'd share the show with them. This is the biggest way that we grow this show. Good old word of mouth. Glad you were here with me today, and I hope to have you listening to the next episode. See you then.